Hey everybody, welcome back to the Convo Couch. I am Fiorella, and I know it's been a crazy day. I know Jimmy's finishing up right now. I know everybody's on. But of course it's Wednesday, and since our schedule's a little off for the rest of the holiday season, I wanted to go live and talk about all these things that have been happening with still the debate, which shouldn't be a debate at all, between AOC and the left, the real left, the anti-establishment, anti-imperialist left, like Jimmy Dore and several others who have joined in on this call to demand that progressives withhold their vote for Pelosi, and to not just withhold their vote, but to do so for the specific reason of bringing Medicare for All to a floor vote. We've seen many comments, and we're going to go over it today. Jonny and I, we're going to show you guys some things, but I've seen a lot of criticisms, right, from people who are huge AOC fans. That always seems to be like the connecting factor. These people have been extremely critical. It seems more like a personal bias against Dore rather than actually looking at the substance like others have done. And you don't have to like Jimmy Dore to understand this is a good idea. And, you know, he's not an organizer, but he's trying to organize something. And that's his right, considering nobody else has done crap to do this. Now, there are actual Medicare for All organizers working behind the scenes to push this, and they're getting pushback from people like Our Revolution. And this is very real. That's going on right now. The Our Revolution National is telling people Jimmy Dore is not our friend. Our Revolution National is not for getting this done. Meanwhile, activists on the ground for healthcare are actually for getting this done. And it's important that we understand that from the get-go, that this isn't necessarily a divide between AOC and Dore. This isn't about that. This is about it isn't about individuals or personalities. This is about people who are up to this point and they need healthcare right now. They need it, especially during a pandemic. And what better freaking time to fight for healthcare than a pandemic, especially now where I'm going to get really, really angry today, because what Congress is offering is pennies. It's pennies for people. It's absolutely unacceptable, and nobody is really fighting that hard. Even Bernie Sanders, I will show an interview he just did, is going to be willing to accept this stimulus. Now, I want to start off with talking about AOC being in hot water, because she basically retorted with more type of denial, excuses, and gaslighting. So we know that the faux left has been going after Jimmy Dore and progressives who are demanding accountability from these politicians and these Congress members like the Squad and AOC and the Progressive Caucus of 100 people who haven't done shit. And, you know, these are the naysayers, right? And I'm just going to go over really quick. We've seen Anna Kasparian and a lot of these TYT hacks expose themselves as corporate light. Like, I'm going to pretend to oppose the establishment, but I'm really actually going to be saying the same thing, just with leftist jargon. So Anna exposed herself once again, and Tulsi Gabbard seems to live rent-free in her head. So let me just read what she said. She went off on Jimmy Dore and was talking about all this crap. And she said, it's one thing to debate the strategies lawmakers like AOC should take. My issue with Dore is that I don't believe he says anything in good faith. First of all, anything about Jimmy is irrelevant to you. Your feelings about him are irrelevant. This is about the issue. It's incredible to witness his rage-filled demands of some lawmakers while he refused to hold Tulsi accountable for a damn thing. Where the hell did Tulsi come from? Tulsi's leaving Congress. Why do you keep bringing her up? Because that's the only argument she has against him. And Tulsi, who has brought up legislation after legislation, not every single one that I agree with, But she's been the only one speaking out for whistleblowers, the only one speaking on election integrity, and somehow she manages to turn this from AOC into attacking. She's deflecting. That's deflecting 101. Then she goes to talk about Jimmy's character, which is irrelevant to the point, and then she says attacking AOC is more of his branding exercise than anything else. Attacking AOC, holding them accountable and saying, hey, didn't we vote you in for you to oppose the status quo, isn't attacking. It is pushing them left, holding their feet to the fire. I thought that's what we wanted. I thought that's why you all said vote for Joe Biden to mitigate damage, because as soon as Joe Biden's basically in there, we're going to fight him like we fought Trump. I thought that's what you guys wanted. Apparently, that was all a bunch of bullshit. Apparently, it was all a lie. Then she says, with that said, pressuring politicians to actually represent us is the right thing to do. I just question his intentions for good reason. Even a broken clock, et cetera, et cetera. Like, okay, so you don't like him. So that is basically why you are saying this. You have no other substantiative reason to actually talk about this. And to me, it just seems like a bunch of BS, deflection to not be able to hold these people accountable. Now, I want to point out something about that Moderate Rebels and Max Blumenthal and Ben Norton have pointed out about Anna, and that's really important to highlight, because when I say hacks, I mean people getting paid the big bucks, people part of UTA, of CAA, of these organizations, pushing these pro-NATO policies. Now, they did a story, Max Blumenthal did, on Moderate Rebels, on what Anna Kasparian did. Now, she interviewed Madeleine Albright, who is one of the worst warmongers ever. And I just want to show a little bit of this video to show you the hypocrisy between how Anna, dictates what is good and what isn't.
It came to my attention that Anna Kasparian had gone to the Munich Security Conference earlier this year. The Munich Security Conference is put on by NATO. It's funded by the German government, the German Foreign Ministry, and some other Western European governments, as well as the arms industry, big banks, the oil industry, and McKinsey and Associates, which was just like relentlessly trashed by, pro-Bernie elements because of Pete Buttigieg's association with it. And she did what it looked like a paid gig, where she interviewed various major foreign policy figures at the Munich Security Conference, including Madeleine Albright. And she gave this softball interview to Madeleine Albright where she came in just glowing with pride and talked about how excited she was to interview Madeleine Albright, the author of Yugoslavia's destruction, the person who helped kind of launch the siege on Iraq. And instead of asking the first question...
And who defended the deaths of 500,000 Iraqi children.
Well, exactly. I mean, your first question should have been, do you still think it was worth it?
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
And instead, it was just a softball interview for which Kasparian, it appeared to have been a paid gig for a NATO conference.
Welcome to your MSC. I am delighted to be here and to have a conversation with the former U.S. Secretary of State under Bill Clinton, Madeleine Albright. And Madeleine Albright was actually the first female Secretary of State in the U.S. And it is a pleasure to have you here. It's an honor to have a conversation with you.
Well, I'm delighted to be interviewed by you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So as you guys can see, I just wanted to point that out that, Max pointed out something. She's trying to vilify Jimmy Dore and trying to malign his character while simultaneously pushing this imperialist propaganda. And this is just one example. We know that she's peddled lies regarding Tulsi Gabbard. We know that no politician is perfect, right? We've criticized Tulsi on this show multiple times. but she just peddles all these lies, and her network obviously has received money. My boy Robbie Jager has completely done several articles outlining just how much money that is and who it's coming from. Money talks, money influences people. All you have to do is follow the money to see who's being influenced for what. They're no longer independent media. They're a corporate network, and they're, using that to pretty much just malign anybody that's on the actual anti-imperialist left. Now, I want to talk about the other side, the Brooklyn left that, several of us often talk about, the DSA types. Look, individual DSA organizations do good work oftentimes, but in many occasions, what's happened is that these people have become very, like I said in the last video on Monday, they've become extremely, they take a dive into theory and they completely ignore the real world, and they talk about praxis and they talk about socialism, but it is in a very westernized form of socialism, a very form that completely maligns and ignores the global south, like nations like Venezuela, Bolivia. And there is an element of racism in that, but more than anything, it's an element of westernized propaganda used to rebrand socialism into something that it isn't, into a form of radical liberalism is basically what it is. And basically, this is an example of that. So Jamie Elizabeth is on Sam Cedar's show, The Majority Report, right? And she's often been one of the better people on there. I gotta say, one time that I've seen they were attacking Jimmy Dore, she was actually a little bit more reasonable than the rest of them. But this is what she said, and this is by the condescension, the arrogance, and the intellectualization that I see coming from a lot of the more upper class journalists on the left. There is a leftist communist critique of electoralism accompanied by a program of autonomous working class organization, to which I am sympathetic, but that's not what Dore is doing. His critique is one of individual metal, which is 100% idealist and therefore anti-Marxist. I'm fine with refusing to vote for Democrats pending certain concessions, but unless it's an outgrowth of real independent institutional working class power, the only thing that's going to happen is even worse people getting elected. Okay, AOC's and the squad's theory of change might be flawed, but at least they have one that they are attempting to carry out, which will always earn more respect from me than mindless idealist contrarianism. Okay, so do you see it's, some people commented like, I don't even know what she's saying, and blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to break it down because I had a response to her because, like I said, I consider myself an intelligent person. I understand what she's saying, but the vast majority of people look at that, especially on the right, and they're like, what is this person talking about? This is why they make fun of us a lot on the right, because you take something and you come from it from an elitist point of view that is so condescending, and you're talking about the working class. The working class doesn't need to hear all of this theoretical garbage that you're spewing. This is exactly the condescending, holier-than-thou intellectualism that I spoke about. These people talk about organizing, yet dismiss a very basic action. So if you're talking about organizing, why are you dismissing a very basic first attempt at an organization effort to bring Medicare for all to a vote? It's something so basic and simple. So if you talk about organizing the working class, that is a working class issue. That disproportionately affects the working class. It disproportionately affects people of color. So how can you even try to talk about a general strike or a bigger movement if you can't even do something as simple as this, right? Is it just talk then? And so AOC, she talks about AOC's theory of change. There is no theory of change for AOC. She's not there to change the status quo. She's showing that time and time again. She's actually there to rebrand the status quo as something more attractive and more seemingly progressive, but really at its core, it's essentially the same exact thing. It's essentially the same exact thing in, again, it's a more Western, radical, liberal form of socialism. It's not meant to actually challenge the status quo. And I also wanted to note that, no American should be delusional enough to think that Marx would be okay. If you actually read Marx and understood Marx, that Marx would be okay with voting for a Republican constantly because you don't want the other Republican to win, because that is what the Democratic Party is. It's a bunch of Republicans. And she's saying that Jimmy Dore is idealist and what he's doing is idealist. No, what he's doing is standing up to the chains of power, standing up to the machine, the levers of power, standing up to the status quo. That is revolutionary. What you're suggesting is counter-revolutionary. It is submission. It is actually being a capitulator to the status quo. So it's kind of interesting that the projection's there, and she admits it later on in her tweets. She admits that nothing is going to come from electoralism, and I agree with her. Nothing is going to come only from electoralism. In order to get the electoralism there, you have to push direct action. So why condescend and look down when somebody, a person that's a jag-off comedian, right from his garage, is doing something? Because nobody else is doing it. Why not encourage that? Even if it fails, even if it's symbolic, why would you look down on that? And that's not like an attitude of I care about the working class. That's an attitude of I don't like this guy. He's not somebody that I think is an intellectual. He's dumb. So you know what? I'm not going to take what he says seriously because it's just not up to my standards. That's what it sounds like. And that type of attitude is what I loathe from the neoliberal Democratic Party. And that type of attitude is what sent people from Obama to vote for Donald Trump in Middle America and in the South. And that language that you're employing is basically the rebranding of this neoliberalism. And it's disgusting, which is why I even spent like 5 minutes now just pointing that out, because people need to know that why these things happen. Things don't happen out of nowhere, right? And so I'm going to move on to David Serrata, because there's been a lot of talk, and I used to like David Serrata a lot. I mean, I think he's a decent journalist, a decent writer. I think he was one of the better people in the Bernie Sanders campaign who was actually pushing a lot of the people in the Sanders campaign who were actual consultants and shit libs. But at the same time, he has this attitude of, again, that same attitude like, Jimmy Dore doesn't know what he's talking about. This is not what he said. This is what I feel when I read his article, right? He gives good suggestions, but these suggestions are actually far more idealistic than what Dore is proposing. He says 5 things how progressives can do to advance Medicare for all. And among these things, he, first of all, he talks about the performative attitude and these YouTubers who are just ranting online. And he talks about all of this stuff like it's beneath him. And if he didn't have those words, I would probably read it and say, okay, well, he's fine. Like, he added a couple things. But it's because he's belittling in a very intellectual way that I grasp that. I'm not an idiot. Like, I see what you're doing. And the vast majority of people see what you're doing, too. You may be bringing up some good points, but when you come at it from an arrogant perspective, people don't want to listen. And it's just really right now, we don't need people telling you that you don't understand government. We need people doing things and doing actions. And so he called it debate raging on social media. And he also called it, like I said, performative and blah, blah, blah. And so he thinks the vote is performative, right? And so he says, we can remove the Medicare for All opponent who chairs the key committee. That's one of the things he's talking about and in this article, and it's the Jacobin article that's in the folder. And basically what he's saying is Pelosi can remove Richard Neal, who has played a destructive role on behalf of the healthcare industry and Wall Street donors. Okay, but again, here's what I want to point out. You're asking Pelosi to remove it. So now you still have to go to Pelosi. She's not doing it. She's never once budged on healthcare for all. Never once has she tried to do this. So why would you think you can do that? Why would you think you can move her on that and then dismiss the first action that would make this a reality? Then he says, schedule a vote on existing legislation to let states create single-payer healthcare systems. Okay, that's a great idea. Now, you have to rely on Rokfin, okay, if he brings it up. But again, this is going to require time and bureaucracy, and it's not, people aren't going to see all of this happening behind the scenes. We need people to see who stands with them and who doesn't. So yes, you can do this after the fact, but why isn't Rokfin out there pushing more? Why aren't any of the 100 members of the Progressive Caucus out there pushing more? Why isn't the squad doing that, pushing for that? They're not doing that either. So why did it take a comedian to come out and force them to do that? The only way to force them to do that is to shame them. Public shaming is one of the things that has always moved people in power to do anything. Number 3, he says schedule a vote on resolution demanding Biden use executive authority to expand Medicare. Biden has said multiple times that he will veto Medicare for all if it's on its desk. 100% he has said it multiple times. Why would you think that you can push Biden on this issue when you can't even get the Speaker of the House to be pushed on this issue? So I'm not saying don't try. I'm just saying the things you're giving are a lot more of a reach than what even Dore is suggesting. It's so basic and simple what he's suggesting. Why is he getting a lot of pushback? Well, we know why. 4, include provisions in year-end spending bills that create a presidential commission charged with crafting a Medicare for All program. Again, it's a really great idea. I agree with all of these points that these are things that could be done. But again, this is going to take a while. In fact, we don't have time. By 2022, I guarantee you we will lose more seats in Congress, or not we, the Democrats will lose more seats in Congress, progressives, whatever, they will lose more seats in Congress. Author a discharge petition to force a vote on Medicare for all. Now, this to me is one of the stronger things he said, but at the same time, you still need to actually get members to do it, right? So if you don't bring Medicare for all as an emergency need right now during a pandemic to the floor vote, what makes you think that any of this can happen? What I'm saying is, in order to do this, you have to at the very least try that. It's not performative if it's the first step in getting things done. So when you call it performative, you're belittling it and you're acting like it's not even a good idea when it actually is. And he says he supports Jimmy Dore's idea, but then he turns around and says something else. So he said it's a good piece. Brianna Joy Gray wrote an article on current affairs, and so David Serrata said, it's a good piece. Jimmy Dore did a good thing by raising this issue, and a performative floor vote would be super helpful. As I've said over and over again, an important organizing tool that should be part of the whole series of action. What is anyone even arguing about? Okay, well, I agree with you there. I agree with you. You shouldn't be arguing. You should be on the same side. But then he goes and says something like this that makes me think that this is more personal, that this is more about how he feels about Jimmy Dore than about anything else. He says, a reminder that the incoming Democratic president could, with a stroke of a pen, expand Medicare to cover millions of people, and nobody's doing any pressure/organizing around this at all. That's not true, because the left wants performance art rather than results. Good night. So again, you're belittling an action, and you're saying that the left doesn't actually want these things when a lot of people actually do, because they're living it right now. They can't go to the doctor and get a COVID test because they don't have insurance. People turning 26 automatically lose their health insurance. Johnny's going to lose his health insurance as soon as he turns 26. It's these, and if you get COVID, if you get complications from COVID, if you get complications from anything right now, when the hospitals are overburdened by the whatever is going on with COVID, don't you think people are going to face emergency? You can't say that people don't want this. They absolutely do want this, and they are trying. So when you say things like this, it just comes off like you're being a hypocrite. It comes off like you're saying you agree, but on the other end, you're bashing the person doing it because you don't like them. You don't have to like Jimmy's tactics. You don't have to like that he curses like a fucking sailor, but that's irrelevant because the point is the issue that is being discussed. And I'm sick and tired of a lot of these more, wannabe intellectual leftists who are completely dismissing this just because it's not from somebody they actually like. And it was really disappointing to see none other than Tim Black, right? Um, Tim Black, of course, he should be on the same side here. He says, what part of we don't have the votes don't you get? It won't pass the House. It won't pass the Senate. Explain why you want to kick out the squad to vote on a bill we currently don't have the votes to win. How is that a winning strategy? To win what exactly? Clicks and views? Again, here it's like, oh, he only cares about clicks and views. And I have been thrown the same insult. Oh, you're just peddling this anger on the left because it gets you views and clicks. It's like, no, we don't even have a huge channel. Like, this is not what gets you views and clicks is being a sucker, is being a bootlicker to the establishment. If you can literally go and see who gets the most views, it's the neoliberal type of progressives that do, because they toe the same exact line. They talk about the same shit. They never challenge the status quo, and they're always saying like the same things. In fact, we go further. We're talking about election fraud from the left. We're like the only ones to do it, which is a complete risk, and it's gotten us a lot of backlash. We are completely fair. It doesn't get you clicks and views. That actually does the opposite. So again, it's not about Jimmy Dore, but here you are deflecting about Jimmy Dore. Did you want to say anything, Johnny? Oh, okay. He also said, dog, you followed me for years, so I want you to know my side. My only problem is forcing the squad to vote against Pelosi will be used against him by moderate Dems, which will hurt the movement. What? Everything will be used against them if they're actually in opposition to the status quo. Duh. That's what they signed up for. They signed up to oppose the status quo. They didn't sign up to play nice and become friends with Pelosi and have tea and crumpets with her. They signed up to actually oppose what she's doing because she's a gatekeeper keeping progressive policy away. That's precisely what they signed up for. So you know what? Like, all of these excuses like, oh, we're going to lose. Okay, so what? At least we will know who voted what way. At least the public will hear, because now everybody's talking about this, right? We will see who dares say no to you getting healthcare during a pandemic. I want to see the names. That's what matters. That is not performative. It is effective. In what world do we live in where we think that we are so worried about their careers or their leverage? They don't have leverage for us. I don't care about the leverage for their fucking careers. Their careers are irrelevant to me. They're not supposed to be careerists. They're supposed to be public servants. Their job isn't supposed to be glamorous. They're not supposed to go on Vanity Fair. They're not supposed to get, on these shows. Their job is supposed to be public fucking servants. And why all this bootlicking? Like, I hope the boot tasted so good from all these people, pretty much like carrying water for the establishment. What happened, progressives? I thought we were going to hold their feet to the fire. You told me that. You told me that as I was mocking it, because I knew this wasn't going to happen. So just let me catch up on the tabs real quick. It's really unnerving right now, because, yeah, if you want to do the chats, can you do the chats? Okay. Okay, can you guys hear Johnny? Let us know. Oh, they can't hear you? All right, let me go and find the chats really quick.
I think now they can hear me. So,
Okay, good.
So Jackie Pagu, I believe Jackie Pagu. Let me see. She said, "Thanks for all you do, my fellow leftists." David, NATO Kasparian. A. Mares, you're right. Jimmy's right, and this is an epic chance to see everyone's cards. Keep punching up. Thank you so much, A. Mares. We got your letter hanging up on our wall, by the way. We have a new fan mail wall, if y'all don't know. Anna NATO Kasparian is very insecure and wants approval from big shots. David. Thank you, David. What do you think about that, fam?
She wants a job at MSNBC.
Yeah.
And she's got lots of appearances there and lots of appearances on CNN. Notice the only people that invite Costa and I our Russian television. So
Crosstalk, baby.
crosstalk. Other than that, like we who knows what if we ever get on a right wing news outlet? Just wait for them to be like, oh, see, I told you she was a right wing grifter.
David. Karen Kasparian from Sweet Lou. Good one. I don't get that one. Is Sweet Lou a movie?
Maybe Pasta should be here for that.
Yeah, Pasta doesn't know all the movies. David. Jimmy Dore is a materialist by fighting for material change. He is not an idealist.
I mean, I don't really care what you call it. You know, for me, it's more ideal to think that we're going to get Marxism by saying you're going to vote for the Democratic Party, who's a bunch of right wingers. I mean, how they twist that and gaslight is disgusting.
So amazing. He gave a little heart emoji with the aloha. What is it? Little hand emoji?
Yeah. The Tulsi flower?
No, it was the hand emoji. You know.
Oh, okay.
North American ape. It's very telling that they only go after Jimmy. They've yet to act like this with Kyle, Crystal Ball, Graham, etc. Not even Sam Cedar, who agrees.
It's surprising he agrees.
Well, yeah, I know, right? Just a girl. Y'all are 100% accurate, and everyone in the USA has lost their collective minds. Now is the time. Punch up 24/7.
Thank you. It's lonely for radicals in America, I'll tell you that much. Johnny, I think... Huh? Is it good now? Okay. So if you click Johnny, that's her reply to her other tweet, but it's the tweet that says some people. If you go to that one. So I want to talk about what AOC said because she really took it to the next level by blaming voters. She said, some people say a co-sponsor list isn't genuine and forcing a vote, even if it fails, will add clarity by putting people on the record, even though the co-sponsor list is on the record. Problem is with a GOP Senate, people can still disingenuously vote because they know it's going to a graveyard. First of all, why is she worried about the Senate? She's in the House. The Senate is beyond her purview. She has no reason to worry about the Senate. She's making a lot of assumptions here right now, and she's pretty much referring to Dore and literally everybody else that's coming after her because a lot of people are coming after her, rightfully so. She's got 10 million followers on Twitter. She's got, I don't know how millions on Instagram. She's one of the most popular politicians in our time, and she has a lot of the youth who follow her. And instead of building actual movements, she's over here capitulating to the establishment and putting people on record, literally on record, not on some, really hidden, secretive piece of paper that nobody can find. But now that everybody's talking about it, putting people on record in the middle of a pandemic is beyond powerful and beyond effective, and it will literally set the tone to publicly shame these cucks that refuse to give people Medicare for all in a pandemic. It is absolutely it's so important. She's minimizing here. Then she says, so now you've actually made life harder for organizers because if you suspect a co-sponsor isn't a genuine supporter, you now just gave them a chance to cover when stakes are low. So now they can ward off pressure. What is she even talking about? Pay attention. Actual Medicare for all grassroots organizers having pushed for this. Yes, they are. They're doing it, but they're being met with opposition from these huge organizations that don't want to actually oppose the status quo. They're just there to rally a cry of Medicare for all, wear masks that say Medicare for all, wear a t-shirt that says Medicare for all. But really, are they fighting for Medicare for all right now during a pandemic? If you're not fighting for it, we should already have it. This shouldn't even be an issue. The fact that we don't have it, and we're getting so much pushback for wanting it right now is ludicrous. Do you not see how ludicrous that is? Remove yourself from this country, be an outsider, and to those of you who are watching from another country, this looks like a joke. How dare we all not be in agreement to fight for this right now? Then she says grassroots organizing and pressure campaigns take an insane amount of work and preparation. Key organizing moments may look like random uprising and viral internet moments to some, but they aren't. They are the result of years of targeted organizing and people movements aided by the present moment. Exactly. That is what happens. It takes years and it takes work, but why aren't you doing it? You have this power, this following. Why the fuck aren't you doing it, AOC? Why does it take a comedian to come in and put you on the spot, and now you're all defending yourself because your ass is on fire because you don't know what to say, and now you're blaming the people. You're literally blaming, or you're saying organizers aren't fighting for this. You're saying, oh, it's not the right time. So if it's not the right time during a pandemic, please give me an instance when it will be a better time. When it's not a pandemic, I don't understand. Like, this is the actual best time for this to actually happen. And, you know, she did an interview with The Intercept, and she also said, if you want to model into how we can successfully secure floor votes on a progressive leg, examine how the grassroots just successfully forced and passed $15 minimum wage in the House over a conservative Dem objections. $15 minimum wage took years to pass. You want to know how it happened? Shama Sawant was one of the first leaders in pushing $15 minimum wage in Washington state that got it, was one of the first to get it. Why? You know what she did? She mobilized people to go and protest and sit in and strike until they got it. And the Fight for 15 had McDonald's workers work with other organizations. That's what they did to get $15 minimum wage. And they pushed and pushed and they were loud. They weren't like, oh, we're not going to oppose people. No, they did that. Where is that push for Medicare for all? I don't see it. Why isn't it happening? Because people don't think it can happen. Because they're too busy standing the squad to actually hold them accountable and say, wait a minute, isn't this your issue? Isn't this the progressives' number one issue? What is and we have a pandemic? Geez, during the Depression, you got after the fact, you got after the war, you got the New Deal. We're not getting crap this time. People aren't getting shit. And you want to talk about how, no, we have to wait for the right moment. And no, if it was anything real, then they would be organizing, and they're not organizing. Like, stop bullshitting people. People are fucking dying and you're bullshitting them. It is absolutely disrespect to these people that have fought so hard, not just to elect your ass, but to elect all these progressives. If they're going to go in there and worry about the committees they're in and worry about their next career move and their fucking career ladder climbing antics rather than doing their jobs, it's a basic thing. You're either on the side of the people or you're on the side of the establishment, the corporations, and these lobbyists. And it looks like she's on that side. And it's not Jimmy Dore's fault for pointing it out. It's not anybody here's fault for pointing it out. It's the truth. And if the truth makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but we tell the truth. And it's as simple as it gets, because right now the truth is hard to find. Most people aren't telling the truth at all. And there was this interview she gave with The Intercept, right? And she said, basically, the title in this article is very misleading because they said that she said, I'm not ready to be speaker, but Pelosi and Schumer need to go. She never actually said that. She actually answered the question and said, when somebody asked her, do you think it's time for Pelosi and Schumer to go? She said, yes. And then she said, but, I'm not ready to be speaker and we have to wait for the right moment to do this. Let me see if I can find it. But basically she wasn't speaking out against them. She also said she wasn't going to challenge them. And she said, the hesitancy that I have, it's towards the end, is that I want to make sure that if we're pointing people in a direction, that we have a plan. And my concern, and this I acknowledge as a failing, as something that we need to sort out, is that there isn't a plan. How do we fill that vacuum? Because if you create that vacuum, there are so many nefarious forces at play to fill that vacuum with something even worse. And so the actual sad state of affairs is that there are lots of folks more conservative than even they are willing to fill that void. So she's saying that because there's not a direct plan, that, you have to be careful as to what you say. It's like, look, you may not have an actual plan right now. We may not have every little step laid out, but that's your job. That's not even like the people's job. The people's job is to push and push and push and be loud and demand you to do your job. Their job isn't to go to these committees and do these hearings and push and rally and whip the people they work with, the Congress people and Senate. Their job isn't to do that. That's your job, and you're not doing it. So people are going to push you to do it. It is as simple as that. And there is never going to be the perfect time, any other time than a pandemic. It's ridiculous. And people were praising her, even though she didn't even say anything to challenge Pelosi. She's going to vote for Nancy Pelosi, you guys. She's going to vote for Pelosi. She was always going to vote for Pelosi. The squad was always going to vote for Pelosi because they're convinced that if they don't vote for Pelosi, a Republican will be the speaker, which is false. It's false. That's not how it works. And I want to point out why it can work, why Jimmy Dore's plan can work. So first of all, right, like I said, we would not get a Republican speaker. The idea that we would get a Republican speaker is absolutely bogus. It is absolute crap. If you go to this website, fas.org, it's the Congressional Research Service. They literally go over the process for electing the Speaker of the House, and it's frequently asked questions. And let me just scroll to this part right here at the bottom, I think. Okay. I'm just going to go over some of them real quick. How are the party nominees selected? In current practice, each House party caucus selects, prior to the floor vote, a candidate whose name is placed in a nomination immediately before the vote. So anybody could run for speaker, right? Anybody, one of them, the progressives, could run for speaker. Are the nominations formally made on the floor? Typically, the election commences with a member from each party caucus placing in nomination the party's candidate for speaker. And in what form do the members vote? Since 1839, the election has been by a roll call vote, a quorum being present. Votes are cast via votes, meaning that each voting member states aloud the surname of the candidate whom he or she favors for speaker. The presiding officer appoints several members as tellers who tally the votes. So even though it is a voice vote, they tally the votes. There is a record. And how many votes must a candidate receive to be elected speaker? The long-term practice of the House is that electing a speaker requires a numerical majority of the votes cast by members for a person by name. This does not mean that an individual must necessarily receive a majority, currently 218, of the full membership of the House, because some members may not be present to vote or may instead answer present. So they don't have to have all the 218, but they need to have the most of it, obviously the highest number. What happens if no member receives sufficient votes? If no candidate receives the requisite majority of votes cast, the roll call is repeated. So then they do another one. No restrictions are imposed on who may receive votes in the subsequent ballots. For instance, no candidate is eliminated based on receiving the fewest votes in the floor election, and a member's vote is not limited to individuals who received votes in previous ballots. So there is no guarantee at all that Kevin McCarthy would become the speaker. So I've heard multiple people on my Facebook, on Twitter, repeat the same bullshit argument, which is they got it from some establishment hack, because it's the same exact words that they're repeating, right? What? Yeah, well, Sirota said it, but he wasn't the only one. Like, several people in the Democratic Party have said this. AOC is saying it. So why can this work, right? Why can this work? Because a lot of people are saying this doesn't work, and I haven't heard any convincing arguments as to why it won't work. It is a very important first step. Obviously, it's not the only step that we need to take, but pushing papers and electoralism, again, isn't necessarily the only thing you can do. This is more of an action, and this is what needs to happen. So why Jimmy's plan to withhold votes and push Medicare for all to a floor vote can work. It's a pandemic, like I said, an economic crisis, which is unprecedented. Only time we have before we lose majorities in the House by 2022. If we've seen anything of how the state of the country is, trust me, I guarantee you, the right is enhancing their power, especially now when they feel like they've been cheated, and in a way they have. it would surely expose those not voting for healthcare on paper at this crucial time, right? So in the middle of a pandemic, we would have people that we would know paying attention, and we would call their asses out, and we would demand the removal. We would demand they be replaced, or somebody would run against them. Progressives would show opposition to the establishment, cementing a push to the left and helping usher trust in a nearly dead party. And this isn't even something I would want. Like, if the squad were smart, they would have their cred. They would get their cred by pushing this, because people would be like, oh, they stand with us. It's a very easy thing to do. And seeing the progressive movement stand up and do their job against the opposition would actually build their power with people. People would be like, okay, we have somebody fighting for us, especially right now where people are looking for some form of positivity in whatever is happening. It would actually be good for the Democratic Party. And like I said, it's not something I don't want the Democratic Party to come alive again, but I care about Medicare for all. So there you go. Anyone can run for speaker, like we just said. So this would show Pelosi can no longer avoid the issue. She has never once advocated for Medicare for all. She's literally the only one that can bring it to a floor vote. Literally the only person. She is the gatekeeper. People talk about Mitch McConnell, this and that. Mitch McConnell is awful, but she is literally keeping us from getting something as basic as Medicare for all. Medicare for all has a 72% support, literally, in the United States in general, across the board. It has 50% Republican support, and I believe that's only going to grow, and 88% Democratic support. And it also depends on how you frame it. If you talk about single payer and you specify how you're going to pay for it, I guarantee you more people on the conservative end agree with it, because I've had that conversation. Waiting to have votes is fruitless. AOC wants to wait. All these people want to wait. All these pundits want to wait, because Harris and I believe it was Cory Booker and others co-sponsored the Medicare for All bill in the Senate. But when it came down to their running their campaigns for president, they completely backed off and were pushing a public option or just to reform the ACA. So the votes that somebody says they have are not entirely relevant right now. And Biden said also that he would veto Medicare for all, right? Biden said he would veto Medicare for all. Wouldn't it be great to give him a chance to veto Medicare for all during a pandemic? I mean, as soon as he's sworn in, if he decides, if people push and push and push and literally, quote, push him left, hold his feet to the fire, wouldn't it be great to show it, to publicly pressure him to do that just so he doesn't look like a dick, or it would just show everybody the kind of piece of shit he is. Either way, it's a win-win or situation depending on how you look at it, because that's all we have right now. And then the last thing I wrote is public pressure via strikes, sit-ins, and calls in congressional offices and houses can strengthen this demand. So again, for all the people that are DSA and stuff that want to say that this isn't a direct action, it actually is. It's a very basic direct action. It could be bigger, but with substantiative support from the squad, it could be extremely powerful. From Bernie Sanders, extremely powerful. None of these people are doing that. They have the capacity and ability to do it. So if they're not going to do it, yes, we're going to call them out every single day until they fucking do it, because it's a pandemic and you deserve health care. So that's it. Johnny, can we read some super chats? Thank you guys for sticking with us. I know it's a little late, or normally we go. This is just, I mean, it's not rocket science, you guys. It's the most basic thing we could do right now, and we can't even do it because the left is arguing. The left is just arguing and arguing that it's not good enough, that it's going to fail. And they always say that people like us, you know, we don't want to win. The left doesn't want to win. But we're the ones pushing shit. We're the ones that are like, hey, let's do it. Let's push this. Let's get this to happen. And they're all like, no, No, it's not going to work. Oh, no, Republicans. So it doesn't matter that you voted out Donald Trump or that you voted out Donald Trump, right? That Biden was selected. It doesn't matter because you're still using the Republican boogeyman to completely keep you from doing any fucking action. So what the hell is the point of voting Trump out if you're still going to be scared by the ghost of Donald Trump or the ghost of these Republicans? Again, she's the one keeping us from Medicare for all in the House. She's the one doing it. It's not just the Republicans, which AOC and Bernie love to point out that it's only just the Republicans doing it.
Okay, so only one of us can talk at a time for a reason, for some reason. Okay, so let me see. So Just a Girl said, listen, every single time someone sends a GoFundMe for Medicare, housing, or basic human rights, we must forward it to @US Progressive Caucus and demand that they all contribute every single time. What are your thoughts on that?
If you think it's going to do anything, the vast majority of these people in the Democratic Progressive Caucus are a bunch of cucks. They're not progressive at all. They're a bunch of bootlickers. They call themselves progressive because that brand and that name has been completely just, it's lost its meaning. It's lost its meaning, just like the word fascist. Everybody's a fascist. Everybody's a progressive. There's no meaning to that. I mean, but if it's just to spam them and show that they're not doing their job, absolutely, freaking do it. It doesn't hurt anybody. It only helps, right?
Hello, check. Okay. All right. So the next one was just a thumbs up from the Natural Aggressive. Thank you. North American Pie, or North American Ape, said to progressives, it's been this long and you didn't organize an opposition to Pelosi. You didn't come up with a plan during this whole damn time. Pathetic. It has been since freaking basically this whole year. It's been this whole year, fam.
It's been this whole year. 9 months of this fucking COVID. And trust me, living in LA, I see so much of it. We see 10 cities popping up now. It is out of control. Evictions end, the eviction moratorium ends December 31st. December 31st. People are going to be celebrating a new year. A new year of what? Of being unhoused? We already have millions of people homeless. Over 65,000 and growing in LA alone. Democratic supermajority.
Okay, so yeah, that was a good super chat. North American Ape. Otis B. I got here late, but if Jimmy's plan can actually get Medicare for all to the people, I'll go with it. But if it's a ploy for MPP, I will not. I want Medicare for all, but MPP needs to shape up. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, MPP. They're just starting out officially. There's a lot of things that organizers haven't liked about MPP. There's a lot of things that people do like about MPP. I think right now the key for any party, MPP, Green, whatever, is to get ranked choice voting and to get a revamp on our elections. If you're not focused on that, you're not serious about a viable third party. Because as you know, Johnny, without election integrity, we're going to run into the same thing come 2022 and 2024. But I support the building of third-party cadres. But more than that, right now, we need direct actions building to push the build of a third party, to people to participate in the political process, because they're not participating in the political process right now. They're not. It's not enough to just vote. It's not enough to send money to somebody to run for Congress. Like, I'm talking about like a general strike, and I'm going to go over that in a minute.
Yes. Funny that you bring up the election integrity stuff. Like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get all these people expose them. Like, let's say, they actually go through and they withhold their votes, and then we get Medicare for all on the floor, and then they vote for it. Even though the Democrats voted no for it, guys, look at our election fucking integrity. We have none. They're going to rig the primaries just like they did against all these progressive candidates in California that we know of. They did it. We have proof. I mean, There's there's two experts. Just look up Raji Rob on the Convo Couch, and you'll find out about his lawsuit, where he's saying that he has two experts with both 20 plus years of experience saying that there is access to the vote count when they start accessing all the vote by mail ballots before the election. So if all those vote counts go to a server, you can change the count, and no one knows. The only way you'll know is through an inspection of the logs, and they're not letting him do that. Actually, just now I talked to Raji today. Raji made a motion to compel. He put a motion to compel to get an inspection of the tally machines. And Dean Logan's private attorneys, privately using public money for a private attorney against Raji Rob, who was pro se, self-representing himself, they did a, what's it called? It was private info, or it was like a private clause or something. Like they're trying to say that it's proprietary software, and that we can't look at it. Okay, so the next, so I'm just updating you guys on that, but we're gonna do that in a show eventually. So Jim Garrison, he just sent a super chat. Thank you, Jim. World Traveler 198. They mad Jimmy started a movement and not them.
Yep.
Ego.
That's exactly it, you guys. That's exactly it. They hate that somebody that they deem not intelligent, not intellectual, not like one of those cool leftists that's an intellectual, and there's nothing wrong with being smart, but it's like Jimmy is smart. Like he's got a different way about going about things. You don't have to insult his intelligence. You don't have to demean him just because he did it and you guys didn't think about it. I'm sorry that hurts that a bunch of journalists who consider themselves professional journalists. I mean, in another tweet, David Serrato was just bragging about how he's done all this work and he's worked hard. And it's like, that's great. Nobody's saying you haven't. Like, I don't understand. Like, this is nothing to do about your career or Jimmy's career. This is about the idea that he's throwing out there. And people are making it like a really personal thing. It's really gross.
I agree, fam. I agree. He pulled a Joe Biden. I'm the guy.
I'm the guy. Yeah, he was pulling. I'm the guy.
Yeah. So the next one, let's see. Carson Trice. Just found your channel. Great content, and I'm a Trump voter. Where the duck is the stimulus?
That's what we're asking, man. And we have people from all ideologies who watch us, and I welcome that. I'm not gonna sit here and yell and be more angry at people who voted for Trump than who voted for Biden at this point, because you know what? In my opinion, Trump was the lesser of two evils in this race, and that's hard to say as somebody that, when he first won 4 years ago, I was like, God, this is so bad. And then I realized yeah, but I didn't want Hillary to win either. And I realized exactly why he won. Even more and more as we started the show, we progressed and we saw exactly why people voted for Trump. And it wasn't the liberal whole everybody's a fascist in America. It was the Democratic Party abandoned a bunch of people and they literally have nowhere else to go because it's a duopoly, and and Trump spoke a lot of rhetoric that got people to vote for him. And I don't have to agree with the ideology to understand that more of the Obama administration coming back into play. This is the third Obama administration basically, right? That we're seeing. I don't have to be it's very obvious what's happening. Another Obama administration isn't going to do anything for anybody.
Okay, so thank you, Carson. Jordan Allen, I love you, the Convo Couch, or he said TCC, but keep demanding those cowardly electeds to do their damn jobs.
Thank you, Jordan. We love you too.
SF Thomas, thank you for the super chat. Anthony, rip to the OG Johnson Conyers Angel of Detroit and Medicare for All.
Yeah.
Missing piece. AOC, all out of courage.
I like that one. That one was nice. All out of courage.
Democracy. Did you watch Vash's video on Jimmy and Assange? Uh-oh, God.
I can't. I have tried to watch that guy, and I can't. I'm sorry. It's hard for me. I tried to watch the one with Caleb Maupin because of Caleb Maupin. I like him. But nah, I can't do it. I'm sorry. All right, so let me just continue to the next section, right? Because since everything is going so well and so amazing, and since we should just continue not saying anything and trusting these Congress people who say, trust me, I know more than you. I know what's going on behind the scenes. Buttigieg, everybody's favorite CIA bootlicker, was nominated for the transportation secretary. A surprise, I'm sure, to everybody. And of course, not one person that's a Bernie-crat or a real progressive is in the Joe Biden cabinet. And a lot of progressives were talking about that today. They were like really surprised. Like, I just can't believe Joe Biden is putting in all these people. I just can't believe that there's not a single Bernie-crat in the Biden administration. I mean, Bernie sacrificed his movement, right? In a way to go because of Trump. Oh, Trump. No, the most dangerous president in modern American history, blah, blah, blah. So let me go support Joe Biden and let me go campaign for him. Let me go text Fiorella and all my supporters. Hey, do you have some money to give me so I can go campaign for Joe Biden? Do you know what that did to me? That got me so pissed off. Like, I spent 5 years fighting for this guy and he's going to campaign for Joe Biden. And now who does Joe Biden put in? He puts in the entire Obama administration, all these goons, as Pasta says. So praising cabinets as one of his first, Biden announces Pete Buttigieg as picked to lead the transportation department. And of course, Pete Buttigieg had a little speech where he was so excited and so thankful. You can play some of it, Johnny.
Coming in tonight, Vice President Pence says he will publicly receive the coronavirus. Get his
Secretary Pete Buttigieg would be Mr. Biden.
Natural enemy of all mayors, the pothole.
Notably, Buttigieg would be the first openly gay man confirmed by the U.S. Senate to the cabinet.
Yeah, there they go with the identity politics. Look, I want diversity just as much as the next person, but I don't lead with that. I don't want a warmonger woman of color to represent me. Thank you, literally, Avril Haines. Thank you, Neera Tanden. All these people, like, what good does that do to anybody? I'm sure the people they drop bombs on don't care that they're of diverse race. And I just want to point out something too with Buttigieg. Buttigieg was a mayor from South Bend, Indiana. It's a small town in Indiana. There's so many people that always talk shit about politicians, how, ooh, you're not Harvard educated, Yale, you don't have the experience, da-da-da-da-da. Like, I don't want to ever hear anybody talk about experience now that Buttigieg has gone from being a mayor of a small town, a very ineffective one that had issues with literally all of the constituents he had, regarding housing, regarding race, regarding police brutality, regarding all these things, right? And he's worked for McKinsey, his background. We've done multiple videos on Buttigieg. But this guy, right? This guy, how dare you talk about experience now when this guy went from that to now being appointed? It'd be like imagine them appointing Mayor Garcetti. They're thinking about it, but he's a mayor of a much bigger city. I mean, this is like, it's the largest county and the 5th largest economy of the world. I mean, so, I mean, nobody should be surprised. Buttigieg was the guy they were trying to pump up to see if he had enough charisma, enough whatever to be president, the Iowa app and everything. We know what happened with him. And, he said this cabinet is historic. The nominees are breaking barriers. It's a bunch of openly gay, diverse, women of color, blah, 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 representatives. Nothing about policy, because if they talked about policy, they would out themselves. So they're not going to mention policy. They're just going to go on with the platitudes. And Buttigieg is 38 years old. And, that's relatively young for being in that position. And it's crazy. It's crazy to me that people expected anything different. This guy is perfect. He's literally the epitome of platitudes. He should be called he should be in a band called the Platitudes, because it's like, this is what he does. And it's perfect for the Biden administration that's going to restore the soul of America, right? Whatever that means. And now we're seeing all of Biden's picks. We see they come from for CIA, NSA, deep state, military-industrial complex. And then you have Buttigieg, perfect, fits right in. And I don't understand why people were surprised. I don't get it, Johnny, but people were very surprised that there's not a single Bernie. What did you expect? You all, not everybody, right, that supported Bernie, because I was a Bernie supporter and I never once thought that I would ever vote for Joe Biden. But like a lot of these people decided that it was more important to mitigate damage and to vote for Biden, the author of the 1994 crime bill, the author of the Patriot Act, the guy that's been like this for 48 years. He's been like this. He's been the racial jungle guy. He's been the guy that's literally fought against progressive ideals his whole life, for incarceration. What kind of people do you think he's going to put in his cabinet? Do you think he's going to put Mother Teresa in his cabinet? Do you think he's going to put like like innocent people, kind people, progressive people? Why would he do that after you voted for him? You don't vote for somebody until they give you concessions. And that's what a lot of the progressive Bernie movement did. They decided to vote for Joe Biden. And sorry, I mean, I have to point that out. I'm not just trying to vote shame emptily, but like I'm just saying it's important so you don't do it again, because this happened 4 years ago, and I have a feeling it's going to keep happening because they keep telling you there's always a reason to vote for the other guy. There's always a reason to vote for the lesser of evils. And in case you missed it, no, I don't think Biden necessarily was the lesser of evils in this situation. I think the media manipulated you and got you to believe that he was that much worse, when literally the Biden administration with Obama, the Obama-Biden administration, deported far more immigrants. And they completely lied about it. They made it seem like they didn't. They droned more people. They took us from 2 to 7 wars. I could go on. A lot of the Middle East is in ravaged right now because Obama continued Bush's wars. So don't even pretend that Trump is the most dangerous president if you're not going to name Bush and Reagan and Obama, Barack Obama, the warmonger in chief. So, Johnny, do you have anything to say on that? Because it's just, to me, it's just people are surprised.
Yeah, well, no, just that point that you made about, the fact that Buttigieg got put there, and Garcetti, he's terrible here. There's protests outside every day, out his house now. Not only BLM in the morning, but now Trump supporters at night because he keeps shutting everything down, and they're still considering Garcetti for a place, but it would make more sense to have Garcetti, who's the mayor of the largest county in the country, inside the 5th largest economy in the world. You know what I'm saying? But here we are, and identity politics rule in the Democratic Party. That's why you got to get out of the Democratic Party, because they don't care about policy. It's mostly about identity politics and, our values that unite us. And I hate hearing that shit.
Our values unite us. As Americans, we know we all suffer. And, the American dream is still viable here in America. Blah, blah, blah. We will restore the soul of this nation. We will bring everything back to a new normal. I mean, they say the same exact shit all the time. One of these days, I'm just going to do a whole show pretending I'm a neoliberal. And we'll see how that goes, because I've been wanting to do that, kind of, just to scare somebody. Maybe next Halloween, I don't know. So let's go on to the next topic, Johnny, and just finish this off, because this is what really irritates me. As, by the way, guys, continue to send me your stories of hardship during COVID. I am working on them. I'm reading through some of them, and it's really hard to really see how so many people have the same very similar stories, right? You're talking about losing your job, and then not having your job. You had your money saved for school or for something else, and then you lose that, and then now you have to move it back in with somebody else, and then you don't know what's going to happen. You don't have a home anymore, or you've been trying to get work for 8 months. You can't find work. I mean, it's the same story over and over again from people living all over this country. And yet we have the Congress, the Senate and the House insulting people with this pennies, with these scraps, with this trash of a stimulus that they're trying to give you. In 9 months, we've had a $1,200 check. Many people said they didn't ever get that. They specifically mention it. And now they're fighting for $600 stimulus checks. Yay. The evictions are looming right now. Like I said, December 31st, and you have to pay back what was it, 20%? 20% at least, and then eventually you have to pay it all back. It depends on the state you're in. In California, it's like that. And so Biden, of course, he's been picking, like I said, all these Republicans and all these people coming in, and the people that are already in Congress are already a bunch of, like, I swear, psychopaths, right? And Congress is set to close this coronavirus deal, right? And it includes these stimulus checks, but they don't tell you that the stimulus checks are garbage. So here it is. Senate and House leaders are on the cusp. They're on the cusp of coronavirus relief deal that will include direct $600 to $700 direct stimulus payments and $300 per week supplemental unemployment assistance, according to sources with the talk. So from what I read, they're going to extend, I think, for 13 more weeks unemployment. They're going to put in the $300 and give you a $600 stimulus. It's a $900 billion package, which, by the way, Nancy Pelosi accepted from, I think it was $1 trillion before. And this is a result of months of stop and start negotiations. Blah, blah, blah. Bipartisan group of senators and House members unveiled their own $908 billion package. And this will not include $160 billion in new state and local aid or liability protection for businesses and other organizations. Two of the most contentious issues of the talk. The new round of stimulus checks cost approximately the same as the $160 billion in state and local aid that negotiators have set aside in hopes of reaching a deal by this week's end. Senator and House leaders want to attach a new coronavirus relief package to a $1.4 trillion omnibus spending package that needs to pass by December 18th to keep the government founded. Yep, 2 days. The emerging deal is based largely on a revised $748 billion relief bill that the bipartisan group of Senate and House moderates unveiled Monday, which left aside local funding and the liability protections provisions. Senator Republicans, John Thune, a member of the Senate Finance Committee, told reporters the stimulus checks will be $600 to $700 per individual. That's half of the $1,200. And the senator said there could be language in the deal aimed at addressing concerns that people who receive both enhanced unemployment benefits and stimulus checks would be getting a double benefit. A double benefit. Tax experts said that it would be difficult for the IRS to administer provision that prevents unemployment recipients from getting direct payments. So they're so fucking worried that you might get a living wage, right? Because as I said before, the $600 that it was last time on top of the whatever you got was a living wage. That's literally a living wage. Some people who made more money than that were screwed because they have more expenses, because they make more money. So they have more expenses and they got screwed because of that. Yet these people are worried about the couple people that might make $100 or $200 more. Yes, this is on the Republicans too. Obviously, this is how they think. That's what I have an issue with too. But let's not pretend Nancy Pelosi didn't see that and was like, oh, let me fight for the little guy. Let's not pretend Chuck Schumer, okay, or Adam Schiff, or any of these people have ever fucking given a damn about people. Once they're in there, they got it. They got their money, their cushion jobs. They're fine. They have health care. They're fine. They're still working. In fact, they get paid to not work. They want to go home now for Christmas. They want to go home without doing anything. They don't know when this will be released, too. This is ludicrous. Oh, they might get double dipping. Are you fucking kidding me? This is like Americans should be right now in the streets already. They should have done this. We should have done this a long time ago. And I don't understand. How do you think that $1,800 in a year is enough for people who haven't had money, who have been making $200, if that, every week for most of the time, right? Except that short time they got the $600. And how that's barely, even with the $600, that's barely making like a $15 an hour wage. What makes you think that that's enough for people? What makes you, they don't care. That's the point, that they don't give a shit about you. So why are we trying to reform this party? I always go back to that, right? Because my thing with the whole Jimmy thing and my was, why are we voting for Pelosi? Why should they even vote for her in the first place? Why should we even care about what the Democrats do? We need to start freaking striking. We need to start doing those things, those full-on direct actions, right? Because it's like, these people aren't going to do anything. They're going to vote for Pelosi. They're going to maintain the status quo. They're telling you right now that $600 is enough for you. And it's not. And Sanders and Hawkeye, right? Now, Hawkeye is a Republican, and Bernie Sanders is an independent, technically. And they were opposing. They said that they wanted to push the $1,200, and they have been pushing for that. And Bernie did this interview in the Situation Room, and he said that COVID relief bill is being negotiated in Congress is much too low. And he said the price tag for, this is what they said, the price tag for a stimulus deal could be close to $900 billion. And that's exactly what we just said. It's 908. It should be at least double that, is what Sanders says. So let's hear a little bit of what he says, because even though he is pushing for $1,200, he's actually willing to accept the $600.
Right now, we're keeping a very close eye up on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers say they are making progress on a new economic stimulus package is expected to include a new round of direct payments to individuals, something that our next guest has been pushing for very, very strongly. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont is joining us from Capitol Hill. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. And I know this is an issue that is close to your heart. You've been critical of the current coronavirus relief proposals, saying they simply don't go far enough to do what is really needed. But from your perspective, on the latest information you're getting, what's missing?
Well, number one, the entire bill at $900 billion is much too low. It should be at least double that. So what's in this current bill is good, but it's not enough. Now, what I recognized a couple of weeks ago, that there were no direct payments going out to people in this country, many of whom are in desperate economic shape. As you well know, Wolf, we got a record-breaking level of hunger in America, higher than it's been for a very, very long time. You got millions of people who are facing eviction. They can't afford to pay their rent. They're going deeper into debt. And we're looking at people in the midst of the worst pandemic in 100 years who can't afford to go to the doctor because they don't have enough money. So what I have fought for, along with a Republican senator, Senator Hawley of Missouri, is to make sure there are direct payments similar to what we did in the CARES Act in March. And that would be $1,200 for every working class person in America, people under $75,000, a couple under $150,000, and $500 for each of their children. So a family of four would get $3,400, which is not insignificant in this moment when so many people are hurting.
But just to be precise, that yet hasn't been accepted, what you want, right?
That is right. Where we're at right now, as I understand it, is we're between $600 and $700 for adults and $600 for children. So we are making progress, but I want us to go even further, because I think when you ask people out on the street, what is the most important thing the government can do in this terrible, terrible moment, they will say, give us some help. We need some help right now to pay the bills. And that's what we're trying to do.
Researchers have found, Senator, that since June, it's hard to believe this is happening in our country, some 7.8 million Americans have fallen into poverty. Now, these are people who had jobs, were making a living, they were paying the rent, buying food, doing what they needed to do, but now they are in poverty right now. And it's hard to believe this is going on. And what's so frustrating to me and so many others, why is it taking so long to help these millions of Americans?
Well, I don't want to become overly political here, but it is clear to me that we have a Republican majority here in the Senate who has refused to entertain, and still refuses to entertain, the kind of funding that is needed to provide nutrition, to help people who are being evicted, to make sure that people in this crisis, can you believe it, in the midst of this terrible pandemic, everyone's afraid of getting the virus, and you got 90 million people who are unable to go to the doctor when they get sick. So many of us had fought for adequate funding, and we've met very stiff resistance from Mitch McConnell and the Republican leadership. But, you know, what we got now is not enough, but it is something. And I'm just simply happy to say that as we enter the holiday season, when so many people are worried about how they're going to pay their bills, whether they're going to get evicted, whether they're going to feed their kids, at least, among other things, there'll be $600 per adult and $600 per child as well. That's a start. I want to do better.
Okay. So, as you can see, even though Bernie is the only one, along with the Republican, right, which I think it's a good idea to fight, as long as it's for the people, right? Because sometimes when bipartisan is laid out, it's like not for us. It's for like corporations, right? As long as it's a bipartisan thing for people, that's a good effort, Bernie, but it's a little late. I mean, what is taking so long? I mean, what's going on here that we can't push for something? Why aren't we organizing some sort of occupation, some sort of strike, some sort of whatever? Why aren't we talking to small business owners who are losing everything they have, every single dream that they've ever had because of stupid shutdowns? And yeah, like, well, I got COVID, but I don't think you can shut down like that, especially when the spread isn't coming from restaurants. It's coming from people going to each other's houses. Like that is ludicrous. And what's happening in Los Angeles, everything is screwed. All these small businesses are screwed because people like Gavin Newsom are ineffective, like dumb governors. They're hypocrites. He goes out and eats. He goes to the gym. They get to do all these things that they tell you that you can't do. Yeah, these people aren't allowed to work. Well, at the same time, they're not given any sort of stimulus more than the $1,200. $1,200 doesn't cover your fucking rent in LA. Find me an apartment that's $1,200 in LA, and I will be extremely surprised. A 1-bedroom. Not a little studio with no kitchen. Find me a 1-bedroom apartment that has that. Like that $600 covered. $600 doesn't cover anybody's rent. And Bernie Sanders is telling you, oh, this is just the Republicans. The Republicans, and it's like, it's not just the Republicans, Bernie, it's the Democrats. It's Nancy Pelosi, it's Chuck Schumer, it's Adam Schiff. Nancy Pelosi rejected a bigger stimulus because she didn't want Trump to take the win. That's why she did that. She didn't want him to. She's like, no, I'm going to wait it off because she knew that Biden would be selected. Right? And so she's like, I'm going to wait it off. I'm going to hold off on this. And now she accepts a stimulus that's half of it. And like, where do you get this idea that it's just Republicans? Why are you spewing the same neoliberal CIA talking points that the establishment is doing? And then on top of that, he says he's willing to accept the $600. This is our most progressive senator. Literally, he is. I mean, he is. As much as angry as I am at him, he is the most progressive senator. America, this is where you're at. The one person, along with a Republican counterpart, are the only two people fighting for a bigger stimulus. Everybody else is fine with $600. Are you fine with $600? Are you ready to actually do something about it? Like, it's come to that point, you guys. We don't have power in the electorate. You see what happens when you try to do something in the electorate. They talk you down. They say you don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand politics. You don't understand how this works. Committees and subcommittees and legislation. Who gives a shit about all that? Nobody cares. When you have mouths to feed, when you have children, you're not going to tell me that even a $3,400, even a $1,200 stimulus isn't enough. We should have gotten UBIs direct payments every single month for the duration of the primary. It's not crazy. It's not crazy. Now, do I trust the government to give you money in a capitalist system like this, the UBI? No, not necessarily. I think people should have social safety nets to go along with it. However, during the pandemic, your country is supposed to protect you from it. If they're going to shut your businesses down, if you're going to close the economy, you can't leave people hanging with no other reason. A lot of people who are in the service industry have to work because they make their money. And the thing about the service industry is you make your money right away. You make cash every day. And that's how people live their life. And when you don't have that, you don't know what to do. And your rent and all of this, and it's like they don't understand, like, oh, it's, it's fine, I'll accept it, it's better than nothing. No, because what happens is when you accept scraps, you end up thinking that you don't deserve any better. So what we should be doing right now is having people shut down the economy, having truck drivers, grocery store workers, all these people that are completely unemployed by the service industry, every small business owner that's lost their business, while these corporate giants are going to be fine because they got all their money funneled. They got all the PPP. They were the first ones to get it. Gavin Newsom's friends were the first ones to get it. And all these people are going to be fine. That's just putting all of the economy into these big corporations, Amazon. All these people, they're getting richer and richer and richer. And the middle class is all but disappearing. The working class is literally unhoused, most of them. There are people who work full time and literally don't have a roof over their head. Something's got to give. I don't care what ideology you are. You can tell that there's obviously something wrong in this system that is not working when you have so many people that are unhoused, even before the pandemic hit. Right? Even before the pandemic, this happened. So when I hear the most progressive senator saying, you know what, at least it's $600, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. A lot of people want to praise that. Maybe people say I'm being harsh, but try to put yourself in the shoes of somebody that is going to get a $600 stimulus check by February that's already been evicted. $600, what's that going to do for them? It's going to do something. But it's scraps. You deserve more. We should be fighting for more. Why is it that we have been told that we shouldn't get that? And on top of that, of course, the icing on the cake, the last stab in the back is that we don't have health care in the middle of a pandemic. And if you get sick, you don't want to take that ambulance. And if you start feeling something, you don't want to go to the hospital because you don't want to have a $10,000 bill for the emergency room. And you might die because you'd rather not do that. And you would die alone because, yeah. So, guys, like this is bad. I don't think people understand, which is why I'm doing the project I'm doing, the status that we're in, the gravity of what's coming, because it is coming. And they voted for the CARES Act, which was the largest transfer of wealth. And they're going to vote for this again. They're all going to succumb to it. They're all going to give in to Republicans. Why don't they do like the Tea Party did? Why don't they do like the Whigs did? Why don't we do that? Hold these people. They removed Boehner. They made him cry, and they took him and they got him out of DC because they stood their ground. Why do Republicans? Why are they able to stand their ground and literally get what they want? But the Democratic Party and the progressive wing isn't able to do that. They even chastise you. They say, "What? You don't know what you're talking about. We have to wait for the right time and the right tactic. It's not an okay strategy." Why does Nancy Pelosi get protected by the people that are supposed to oppose her? Like, this doesn't make any sense. These people are not here for you. You need to stop relying on them. We need to rely on direct actions. That is, frankly, the only thing that we have in power. That's what it's going to take right now. And if we don't do it this time, we're not going to do it because it's a pandemic. If a pandemic and loss of everything doesn't make you go and do something, then I don't know what will. This is the time to do that, to put these politicians' asses on fire, to go to their houses like people are going to Garcetti's house, to literally shut down the economy and say, understand, when I talk about shut down the economy, it's not just a commie thing. It's not a socialist thing. It is a workers thing. They depend on you to get the economy functioning. They take you for granted, but they depend on you. What would happen if farmers decided to stop working? What would happen if grocery store clerks and associates decided to stop working? What would happen if teachers decided to go on strike at the same time? Nurses. What would happen if nurses decided to say, you know what, we're not even being given the real PPE. We're not giving protections. They're overworked and underpaid. EMTs, all these people, the delivery workers. Oh, we're being exposed to COVID. They don't care about us. They're paying us. They're not really paying us enough to do this job, and yet we have to expose ourselves. What would happen if all these people, these services, just said, you know what, we're not going to participate in this economy until you give us these 10 things that we want? It's been done before time and time again. That is what moves change. Not AOC pushing papers, but that. And that's what they're afraid of. That's why they don't like Jimmy's idea, because that is the beginning of that. Because that is saying, oh, we're gonna put you on display. That is holding somebody's feet to the fire. But these people don't want feet held to the fire. They just want a little bit of criticism here and there, and they're fine, because you know what? Their lives are still fine. They still have jobs. They're okay. It's only rhetoric. And if you don't walk the walk, and if you're just going to talk the talk, yes, we're going to call you out, because people are desperate and people need some sort of action from these people. No more words, no more platitudes, no more hot takes on Twitter. Oh, this is so great. Ilhan Omar says, oh, we need $1,200 stimulus check. But what are you doing to fucking get it? You're not out there. Yeah, you're not out there pushing for it. What are you doing? I want to see it. People need to see it. People need to see you work hard. You are a representative. You're a public servant. The public needs to know what you're doing, if you're doing, and how hard you're gonna fight. And if you're not opposing the person denying you that, then you're not really doing it. And Pelosi is that person. Pelosi's got to go. Schumer's got to go. No hesitations, ands, ifs, or buts. Period. Johnny. Anything to say?
Nope, you hit it. Let's do some super chats. Let's take a look. Kaiser Jose sent $4.20.
Hey.
The MPP will fail if it only caters to lefties.
Agreed. There should be inclusivity to everybody of different, especially the anti-imperialist, anti-censorship. Like that, you know, the Julian Assange folks, the people fighting for free speech, which, by the way, if you are a Trump supporter or if you want to go at Trump, demand he free Julian Assange. There was that tweet that pastor made where he said that Trump might free Julian Assange. Please go ahead and at him. I added him on Twitter. I was like, Trump, this would screw the Democrats so bad. Trump, you know, I don't care why he does it. I want him to do it. Because what's going on with Silicon Valley and big tech right now in this country is scary. In the Biden administration, it's going to get worse, guys. That is techno-fascism that's happening right now. It's scary.
Okay, Jay Bird. My opinion on MPP is that there needs to be a vote held of they need to vote on all their values. And then just whatever the majority of all the people who vote for, you know, it's okay, we'll stick to all these, not the values, the policies, right? So civil liberties, have all that on the table, but I don't know. There's got to be a bottom line, a bottom floor, the major four, right? Medicare for all, climate change, civil liberties, and then, you know, workers' rights, you know, like it's got to be something simple like that, and then set your differences aside for everything else, you know. Election integrity, number one for me.
Yeah, seriously.
Jay Bird says, Fee, when are you going back on Crosstalk?
I was just on there. I did the last week. I did the state of the progressive movement, and it was funny because even the Democrat was laughing that everybody calls himself a progressive, and there was a Republican guy that was saying a lot of things I agreed with, and Peter Lavelle is obviously a conservative, and we're all just in agreement. We were laughing. It was funny. I was like, what's going on here? And that goes to show you too that a lot of the times we box ourselves in, and you know, when I talk to people, when I used to bartend and I would talk to people, I would talk to everybody, and I would often talk to Republicans, and, you know, we would bond when we were talking about hating Hillary Clinton and hating Nancy Pelosi and you know, hating how, you know, elitist they are. And we would have our differences, obviously, when it came to immigration, when it came to racial issues, but even just opening the door to those conversations, it's hard to do. I mean, I understand why some people can't do it, but to have that idea, that debate of ideas is important. And sometimes the left, like I've spoken about this before, there's a contingent of the left that's become extremely authoritarian, that's become extremely, oh, everybody's a fascist who I disagree with. Oh, everybody's it's not true. And like, you just live in an echo chamber. You have to talk to people you disagree with, and censoring them isn't the way to go. It's talking and debating these ideas that'll show that your idea is better, etc.
Okay, World Traveler 198 says he has the thinking emoji face, and it says, "Is AOC not ready for speakership? The reason why she doesn't want to vote out Nancy? AOC's worried about her position as speaker in 2x years."
Exactly. Like, okay, even if you're not ready for speaker, who cares? This isn't about you. This is about the people. She seems to me more of a careerist, more of a Elizabeth Warren type. AOC is a Warren Democrat. That's what I'm getting, the vibes. And it was really quick, too. That happened really quick. It took Warren a little bit longer than it's taken AOC. So,
thank you, Mohammed Afsal. Boris C says, "Cheers, keep it up," from Canada. Or he had Canadian dollars, so.
It's hard to get citizenship and residency in Canada. By the way, it's like it's extremely difficult. They're very like, you thought Americans were bad. No, Canadians are very like, no, you can't come here if you like. You have to show you're a good worker and all of this and that. Like, they're very, very strict. Nobody ever talks about that. Trying to.
And I think that's all the YouTube super chats. We did have a super chat, a tip on Rokfin, and I want to thank you, Diana. I want to thank you so much. She keeps sending super tips on Rokfin. You know, it's more. You know, Rokfin is better than YouTube because they're crypto based and they're not censoring us and everything. So thank you so much, Diana.
Thank you, Diana. And
Hold on, yeah, yes.
Talk about the Ray token too.
The Ray token is at $1.40. Bitcoin actually just got to its highest price point. I don't know if you guys heard that. It's kind of breaking news today. Bitcoin hit its highest price. It's gone over 20,000. Or now it's at 21,000. And so everybody, if anybody bought Bitcoin before today, the whole time of its existence, you are in profit if you held on to it and you have some Bitcoin right now. You have made profit if you've bought some and hold on to it as of yesterday, as of today. But Diana said, great video. Keep the fight going. Diana, we got to send you a shirt. Pasta, get on that.
Yeah, Pasta. God. Shirt program. Is that it, fam? All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this late live stream. As I said, what Jimmy's doing is great. We need more support. We need everybody to be doing anything like this and go further, not through the electoralism only, but also through the direct actions. Direct actions are what move the electoralism, meaning the action, right, of calling out Nancy Pelosi, of calling out AOC, calling out the squad, saying, hey, you're going to get primaried from the left. That's not even canceling AOC. He's saying, prove me wrong. Do this right. Do this thing. It's a very basic thing. That's direct action. That's taking a stand and demanding from your politicians to do their job. You shouldn't have to, but here we are. And that's what we're doing. And it's a very basic thing. It's something that can happen. And like I said, we need to build this whole thing and shut it down. And that's what we have to be doing. And people criticizing Jimmy because they don't like him, people criticizing Jimmy because he cusses, people criticizing Jimmy because, oh, we're not going to win or whatever. It's like, well, if it's a very unimportant thing, then just do it. Then what if it's not going to do anything, then fine. If it's not going to do anything, then do it, right? Like, it doesn't hurt. So again, these arguments are circular. They're dumb. It's complete just based on personality and some people not liking somebody. You don't have to like him to actually get this done. I don't think he gives a shit if you like him or not. Just get this done and do it. And if it doesn't happen, right? And if we're proven right, because I believe they're going to vote for Pelosi, I believe that they're not going to do this. All these cucks of the 100-person progressive caucus, they're just sitting on their ass. They're not going to do anything. Then the next step is direct action. You're not going to get any power by simply giving up. You have to take that power. They're not going to give it to you. Their status depends on them withholding that power from you. So this is the only way. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Oh, great. 2 more super chats. I think I see one.
All right, Otis B says, the civil liberties include reparations for the descendants of Africans who were slaves in America. Is reparations something the Convo Couch supports? I support it.
I support it 100%. I support it. Yeah, we support it 100%. I think like people have to have a specific plan as to what that entails too, because there's people gonna be like saying that, oh, they didn't get reparations for this reason and that reason. Because if you think about it, the United States was built on a lot of imperialism, still to this day. I mean, we can look at the Middle East and talk about that, which is why if you want to end wars, you should also be for reparations too on that end, in a way, to stop our imperialism. And I think reparations, in a sense, have to be worked out, but I think it's actually a good thing. I'm 100% for it. I understand that it's only been a few years since people went to separate schools. It's only been, the last couple 100 years since people were slaves. And this is, something that is the legacy of America. It's not a beautiful legacy, but it is a legacy. And we have to deal with our past in order to move forward. And if you can't understand that, then that's a problem. But I think the money should not come from working people. The money should come from the top 1% elite. It should come from the government giving something. It shouldn't come from people paying taxes, because people right now are hurting too. And so that's where I think there's a pushback on reparations, where people are like, well, I'm working class and I've never had healthcare. I've never had anything in my life. I live, in Louisiana, and I get screwed by the system too. Why do I have to pay for that, right? Like, I understand where that sentiment is coming from in a system where everything is falling apart and you're being screwed too. So the money should come from the people that did this, and that is the government, or the very, very top 1% of 1% of elites.
Right, the oligarchs. And then just to wrap that up, he says, why is everyone so afraid to speak on it? You can speak subliminally in a future video. I'll catch on. Yeah, it's a touchy subject. I mean, it shouldn't be. Someone asked about Native Americans. Yeah, I mean,
exactly. The only reparations they got were casino and a little bit of land. I mean, they haven't really gotten much of anything. So that's another. A lot of people point out to the fact that there was reparations paid for Japanese camps. That Jewish people were also paid reparations. So why can't we do it for Black people and for Native Americans? I agree. It is a touchy subject, but it shouldn't be. If we really outline exactly what it is, and Niko actually did a really good job once. He was actually talking to conservatives about this, and he got them to agree on a lot of these things, because it's from an economic perspective, it can actually fuel the economy. If you give people, money, it can fuel the economy. I think we all right now need stimulus, right? We need like multiple stimulus checks, right? Like the UBI I was talking about, in order to repair the bullshit that they've handled, the way they've handled the coronavirus. So in a way, that also needs to be paid. We, like, right now, Americans can't even demand a general strike, can't even demand this from people. So reparations to them is like, it's like a crazy idea, but it's really not. It just needs to be talked about. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for this long show. We really appreciate it. And, as always, we have a Patreon. We have the Rokfin. Just subscribe and share if you can. I know these are hard times. And we're going to be, as usual, chopping up the videos, and you'll see them in smaller segments. So thanks, guys, for watching. We'll be back from Fiorella and Jonny. Convo out.